We have the ability to really provide the customer experience inside and outside of the facility, and that's our focus. And then you create a family environment. They want to be here, and you know about their kids and things of that nature. So quality training drives it, but the relationship is really the icing on the cake.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they are taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
What is up, pilot? This is your man, Nick Fialka. I am so stoked you're here, and I hope your week has been going great. This week's interview is really interesting and a little bit different. Randy Rowles, president of the Helicopter Institute in North Fort Worth, Texas. Really great company that specializes in training individuals in a variety of helicopters. If you're a helo guy and you are looking to stay in the helo world and you want to make a great living and work for a great company with a really cool culture, this is it. Listen to Randy's story. I think you're really going to love it. Now, I want to preface everything as well with an apology because I have just moved out to Northern California and I am setting up my studio, and the recording quality on my side was not awesome. It's a bummer, and apologies to Randy, apologies to you guys, but you'll hear a couple episodes where it's a little tinny before I got all the good sound deadening set up and everything else. So I'm trying to get you guys the content that you need and get these things delivered. So thank you for the grace that you're giving me and the forgiveness for that, and we'll move on. And finally is the fact that all of this is made possible, and all these interviews that we do, all this work that we do is completely to help you get better. I want you to have the sharpest sword of anybody in the interview. And our team at Spitfire Elite Interview Consulting wants you to win. We want you to crush. And if you are in the process, we are your only stop. Our coaches are the absolute best. There's nobody in the industry better than our coaches. You need interview prep? Come on. You need some information on how to build a resume, or you want to get somebody to check yours out and make some really great adjustments? Let's go. If you want to get your app reviewed and make sure that it is 110%, that's us. We are the place for you to know that you are getting the best possible preparation for your big day. Our community is great. The men and women that participate in, I was just night before last, I was doing a mock interview with a young lady who just interviewed at United, crushed the CJO, and it was just so fun. She was so ecstatic afterwards. That's my payoff. Like, that is it. Those thousands and thousands and thousands of people that we have helped get those job offers, man, it is so fun. It never gets old. It never gets old. This year, we are going to make more millionaires than Major League Baseball will make in the next 5 years. That's how much we are crushing. And so you need to come on over. I'll be there. My boys and girls that work on our team, we're all there. SpitfireElite.com. Come check us out. You can use that promo code podcast, save you 10%. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your kids. Let's go. I hope you enjoy this interview with Randy. It is a great one. And last but not least, let's have a quick word from our sponsors, because without them, we wouldn't have this awesome podcast. Hey, pilot, it's Nick. I want to tell you about a great friend of the show, Timothy P. Pope. He's a financial planner, and he's completely focused on the professional pilot. He's the kind of guy you want to go to for real talk to help you figure out your financial future. With so many upgrades and so many transitions and so many things going on, you owe it to yourself to give him a call. He'll help you design and execute really smart financial planning strategies, whether it's retirement planning, investment management, military transition, tax planning. He's a great financial planning partner. Timothy P. Pope, CFP, helping professional pilots make the most out of life. Give him a shout. All the information's in the show notes. You should definitely tell him I told you to call. All right, pilots, I'm here with Randy Rowles from Helicopter Institute. How you doing, Randy?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thank you so much for being here. So, Helicopter Institute, located at Meacham Airport in Fort Worth, Texas. Will you just tell us about your company?
Sure. Yeah, Helicopter Institute really was born from an idea in 2009 when I had left working for a local major OEM. I was an instructor pilot for them for a number of years. And really, when you have a broad brushstroke of experience in the industry, I wanted to kind of spread that back out again and not be limited to a single manufacturer type of training that we've done. So in 2009, Helicopter Institute started mostly doing customer training in their aircraft. Another thing, I've been a pilot examiner for nearly 30 years now. So we were also doing a lot of FAA examinations, not just in the Fort Worth area, but around the country for the helicopter market. And Helicopter Institute was more for just doing that, training and checking for the helicopter community, throughout the lower 48. Within a few months of starting the company, I received phone calls from a lot of customers that were my previous customers working in my previous position. And they wanted to continue doing training. A lot of training is relationship based. So they enjoyed the training market with me, and I was very blessed to be able to have them call and say they wanted to continue doing that. Large companies, I think one of my first companies that we had was PHI. We then had Metro Aviation, which these are still existing clients of ours that we do training for. So it's been long-term relationships. In about 2017, we acquired our own helicopter. The market for the Bell 407 was definitely open. It was only the manufacturer providing that level of training. And so a lot of our customers were asking for options. So we acquired a Bell 407 at that time, and it really just took off. The training was insurance-based training, a lot of the manufacturer alternative solutions. We were accepted by all the insurance companies, which we are today. We also have the ability to take safety bucks from USAIG, which is normally just the OEMs, but we're able to do that as well. So we're highly recognized as an OEM alternative. We also do a lot of training for Part 135 operators and so forth. So that's kind of how Helicopter Institute was born. It's grown from that based on customer needs and customer requests. And now we're a single source provider for both Airbus products, Bell products, MD products, and of course the Robinson products that we have as well.
Man, that's a lot of different aircraft. How many instructors are you working with right now? How many of your are on your team?
Yeah, so we have a total of 25 staff members, of which half are instructors. And some of our instructors, we don't do training, of course, just in Fort Worth. We also do a lot of off-site training. Currently, as of this moment, we have 3 instructors out, one doing a Bell 429 class, one doing a Bell 407 class, and another one out in the Northwest actually doing some firefighting training. So we also do a lot of ancillary training, not just aircraft.
Got it. So if a client, like if PHI is going to do some training, are you going down to their facilities and bringing your instructors, or are they coming out to Fort Worth?
It's not just either or. We can go there, they can come here, or it could be a hybrid. We have some air operators that, an example would be an operator maybe with an Airbus product or a 407, something like that. And they don't want to do touchdown auto rotations in their helicopter. So what we'll do is we'll do a majority of the training, say 80% of the training at their location in their aircraft, and then they'll bring their staff to us to actually do the ground contact training in our A-Star, or whichever product they may have. And again, I say the A-Star, it could be any of the things that we have, but that way it's a hybrid relationship. So some in their market, some come to ours. It just completely depends. Our goal is the voice of the customer. We want to be able to provide the customer the solution, no matter what it is, and then just grow from that.
So do you carry a whole bunch of like extra sets of skids? So when the guys,
no, we buy our skid shoes. They're full-length skid shoes from the Schwader Corporation out of Alabama. And Mark Schwader, the guy that owns the company, has done just a wonderful job. It's the same type of full-length skid shoes they use at Fort Rucker. I've had my shoes on the 407 for 4 years now, same set, and they look like they're brand new. And we, on average, at a busy day, that aircraft does anywhere between 15 to 60 ground contact maneuvers a day, just power off landings, not including the hydraulics and all the other. So there is a product out there that works very, very well. So we went and found it. We put that on all of our aircraft in our fleet.
Man, that's awesome. To be able to find a product you can count on made by a person that you know in this industry, I feel like that happens so much. And that's such a good place to be. I absolutely love that. I met your company at RTAC, right? And that's the Rotary to Air Group. It's a huge convention, biggest hiring convention for military aviators in the country, and a really great organization. What were you guys hoping to accomplish while you were at RTAC?
Well, RTAC is a little history also. I mean, they started as the Rotary to Airline Group and have grown, really losing that title. They are the RTAG charity now. And, that vision that they had to be able to bridge the gap between really a lot of military aviators and engineers, the mechanic types, or anyone bridging it to the non-military or civilian aviation sector. For us, we have tremendous success by finding the right people. A lot of it's based upon desire and attitude. And when people participate in events like this, we find they're really looking for long-term solutions. So for us, we were looking for some flight instructors. We're looking for mechanics, both here. As a company perspective, a sidebar, we also have the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University contract in Prescott, Arizona. We provide the helicopter training for ERAU. And so we have some desires of people out there that both want to work and maybe go to school at that university. And so we were looking for some of those folks as well. So we were truly benefiting from the RTAG vision of being able to put, and help some of these folks get out into the civilian industry. And the program did a great job. We had fantastic applicants. I mean, and several folks that we're trying to close on, but it really did a great job bringing the right people at the right time to the right facility.
That's awesome. So talk to me about looking for that instructor. What are you looking for in a person that's going to come be part of your team?
Man, great question. I've always been the type, I was brought up non-military. I started out my first job in an R-22 crop dusting many, many years back in the 80s. And,
oh my God, and you're still alive.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I am still alive. I learned a lot of what not to do from that industry, but
geez.
I have a lot of passion for the aircraft. And so coming from that, I was mentored very, very well. And the industry's changed. A lot of what we did in the 80s and what you're doing today is just significantly different. But I still firmly believe in mentoring. So what we look for is I love to find young instructors, and I'm not talking age, I'm talking about in their experience, right? A person with a great attitude, great aptitude, and they come in and they want to learn to fly. And so if I can get them to the point where they become instructors in the smaller aircraft, my goal is to keep them. More than half of my staff started out as R-22, R-44 instructors. We moved them up within a 2-year period to the 206, 407, AS-350, 500, night vision goggles. And so now I've got 3 of my staff members, to include my chief pilot, that all came from that within the last 3 years, that are now doing every one of our aircraft, all at the manufacturer level training, as well as night vision goggles, power off landings, and so forth. So my goal is to keep them, but you can't just give them an opportunity to train. They have to have credibility in the aircraft. So the other sideline to our business, we have Helicopter Institute, but we also have Longhorn Helicopters, which is a regional Part 135 organization. And we do a lot of power line work and charter work and utility work and things of that nature. So the same pilots that I'm bringing up as they go from instructor in the smaller aircraft into my larger aircraft, they're also flying for the Longhorn side of the business to get the credibility and understanding of the aircraft from an operational perspective, so that they're just not regurgitating what a book says. They need to go fly these machines. And we really find that level of experience that we put into our instructors in this mentoring program even better than some of the manufacturers, where they bring instructors in that have never, in many cases, a lot of folks have never even operated these aircraft. They're out training in them, but they've never done anything with them. That to me is something that, again, from a credibility perspective, when I have a 135 operator or air medical operator that comes in and they're seeking training from us, it's very important that I can train them when I say I'm offering a mission-based training program, what they do for a living, that you kind of need to have done it for a living or at some point to understand what you're teaching them. And so having all the shared experience within my instructional staff, plus the ability to bring them up and put them out in the field in these aircraft, we get a holistic training program for each one of our instructors. The goal being, I don't want to lose them. A lot of turnover occurs because they just want to go fly a different aircraft, or they don't get the opportunities to do the things that they want to do. So we try and mentor the program for beginning all the way to, in more of a senior instructor role, facilitating all of their desires that they wanted out of the industry, but yet doing it under our blanket of the company and checking those boxes so I don't get any turnover. To date, I've had zero turnover on my pilot staff. The only turnover I've had is in my maintenance staff. So we've never had any turnover. So everything that I have has been organically grown and or hired for a purpose, and they've stayed with us. So we've done very well with that model.
All right. Well, my next question was going to be like, if I were going to work for your company, would I get a paycheck where I could support a family? And it absolutely sounds like that's a high probability since everybody's still there.
Yeah, and it's at different levels. The company's growing. So where it started, when I started bringing staff on in 2014, 2015, we were still going on the road. So all of the people that I brought on were contractors that came into and then more full-time positions. Our contract, to be very transparent, when I pay a contractor, it's between usually $750 to $1,000 a day when I put somebody on the road. So the pay has always been decent. I don't expect them to pay for their travel. We pay for all of that. We make sure they have a credit card. The company covers everything. They need to show up and do great training for the customer. The customer experience and the quality of training is what drives the mission. It's as simple as that. And I don't need instructor pilots that are distracted by life issues or feeling that they're chasing a dollar somewhere else. So we try and take that off the table. As we've built internal staffing, we've done the same thing. But to go from, an R22 to a 44, maybe the two, and you grow them plus into the 135 side of the business, there's a growth element that has to take place to the compensation package. And I have to be equal to what's available in the industry. I will tell you that we're not perfect, but I try and put together, and with my staff, I say, I don't really do much anymore with this. This is them. They built a wonderful company. And everybody around me, they just, when you walk in on Monday and on Friday, you get the same smile from the beginning and end of the week. Even in a stressful environment, because we're very busy and a lot of diversity, I think the staff has done a great job creating and facilitating an environment that, they're compensated equivalent to the industry, but yet they're happy to be here. And I really strive to keep that. And I hope my customers experience that. I hope the customers feel that as well.
Okay, so the money is one thing, but to keep the people with you, you have to do something that is different than and better than they can get outside of your company, as well as same thing with your customer, right? Like you have to provide a service that is exceptional that they can't get. So what is the secret sauce? What is the intangible that drives that success?
It's the personal aspect, the personal touch. Same difference if you go to a restaurant. I mean, if you have a waiter or waitress that comes up to provide you service and they don't smile, they just give you the menu. I mean, you can still order your food and get the experience of, whatever that may be, and the food might taste great. But the touch point from that person that engages that moment from beginning to end really defines the experience. And so we spend a lot of time trying to make sure that the first contact with the customer is just as good as it is on the end when they're done, and then follow up with that. And so we spend a lot of time on training staff on how to understand the industry. So when the chief pilot calls or a director calls or an owner calls, even those folks at the front desk that aren't pilots, a lot of the young ladies that we have working up front and the folks that are in my current team, they spend a lot of time learning the industry and regulations. And so when a customer calls, they're able to get a lot of information, but they're also not afraid to say, I don't know that. And then we just connect them to the proper person within the organization that can answer the question. So that way, on the front end, it's very transparent whether we can meet the customer's needs or not. And then a lot of customers will have unique requests. Can we do an initial at a 407? Can we then do a recurrent maybe in the A-Star or the 500? And I'd also like to add some long line and maybe Bambi bucket or something like that. Can we do all that under one contract? And the answer is absolutely.
We can do it in one day.
Yeah, the one day becomes the challenge, but we do try and shorten the courses because travel costs are a major factor, whether we go to them or they come to us. And so we recognize that. And we are a destination location. So cost, as it relates to putting people up in hotels here, it can be expensive, but we have some phenomenal agreements with in the stockyards. Fort Worth is known with the stockyards. So a lot of folks like to stay there. Yeah. So we've got 4 hotels that we are, I'll tell you now, we're sub 150 a night, well under that, even with no blackout period. So we have the ability to really provide the customer experience inside and outside of the facility, and that's our focus. And then you create a family environment. People they want to be here, and about their kids and things of that nature. So quality training drives it, but the relationship is really the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I think you're right. First off, a plug for Fort Worth. I lived in Fort Worth for many years, and absolutely one of my favorite places with some of the best people I've ever met. So definitely worth it. The family relationship, right? The thing I'm thinking about, right? I'm a helicopter guy, and my life in the military, I flew H-60s, I flew H-53s, and I did all those things, and I was surrounded by awesome people. But we carried a level of intensity that was very, very high. And we carried a personality that aligned with that intensity. So if you're the person listening to this podcast right now is probably that pilot that is about ready to make their decision. And, you probably have a lot of helicopter people listening, guys and gals that are trying to figure it out, that are either in the civilian world, but most likely they are military aviators that are helicopter people, just because that's how this helicopter world runs. Like, what would you tell that guy or gal listening about how to fit your culture? What is that like?
Well, I will tell you that about 16 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to start a mentoring program for the helicopter industry for both pilots and mechanics. It didn't exist. So we started an organization called Heli Success. And we did that in Las Vegas. I was still working for a large OEM at the time and a long time. And I'll tell you, my message hasn't changed. We were surprised when we started Heli Success related to the demographics that showed up. We were 40% military folks that were interested and that are going to move out of the military into the civilian ranks. Never thought we would get that. We had about 250 people in the room with probably a 100-person waiting list. People wanted this. And the reason we created this, and I add this because I think it's important, I spend a lot of time with Helicopter Association International. To be actually very clear, I've been on the board of directors now for about 6 years. I was the chair of the board last year. So my history with HAI is a long time, really started in 1993 in my first show. Well, just prior to us starting Heli Success, HAI at Heli Expo has started a job fair. And what we witnessed at the job fair, folks bringing in resumes and so forth, were they were in shorts, they were in cutoff pants, they were in T-shirts. And it's like, this is a professional sector. I know it's fun to do, but so there was an education gap.
Absolutely.
To answer your question, we created this organization. And because I had such a large military demographic, my focus, having not been a military background, was okay, as a pilot exam, that I'm in the middle there. I'm, certifying pilots coming into the industry. What am I seeing at that time? Things have changed since then. But what was I seeing at the time for the military aviators trying to come over? The number one issue was a lack of knowledge to the civilian flying rules. When we get into the federal aviation regulations.
It still kicks my butt today.
Yeah. And so there's a lot there. And so I educated and spent a lot of time and told folks, get used to Part 9 or Part 61. And that's your airman certification piece for pilots, flight instructors, and ground instructors. For the mechanics out there, Part 65, go to the rules. Learn how to convert the quality of experience they have from their military experience. Do not degrade that. Do not discount that. Back at that time frame, there was an adversity that a military aviator would experience because a lot of folks were dual crew. They flew almost everything night vision goggles, right? Everything was a multi-engine aircraft. So at that time, 15 years ago, this was a challenge. How do I go out into this market that doesn't do any of these things? Well, go fast forward to today. We now have 60s in the market. We see, Chinook, 47s in the market. We see the market changing very much with the optics of what we saw back then. However, in the middle is still that single engine, those aircraft. So what I've taught back then was that, they're a military aviator, depending upon how they plug themselves into the civil market, can enter from beginning to end. And we've always went through 3 phases. We always talking about, how do you enter the market? You have the initial phase, right? That's maybe an initial flight instructor, smaller aircraft, something like that. And what I've found is some aviators come out of the military, they don't have a lot of flight time. However it happened, they might have only 500 hours. There might not be a lot of time there, right? They might have gotten out for medical reasons. It could be whatever occurred, something happened. Well, what do you do with 500 hours in this market? Well,
not much.
Well, it depends, right? So they have to go out and they're probably going to take some post 9/11 money or something they've got to go out and get a civil certificate and fly an aircraft that matches their flight time to a civil aircraft entrance job. It might get checked out in a Robinson and start training as an instructor. So that's a plug-in point. There's a lot of folks that come in with a couple thousand hours, but they don't really have any PIC time, single pilot PIC time. Well, that might be an opportunity where they go to a school like myself, which happens a lot, and they come in, they do a 407 transition. They can use some government money for that or whatever the benefits they have. And now they're qualified in an aircraft that is marketable in the industry, and they still have that 2,000 hours of experience behind them. And at that point, now they're equal, right? It's just because they're coming out of a different background, it all comes down to the last piece. Mm-hmm. And that's the individual.
Yep.
It's all about the person, and it's how they sell themselves. And if I've got a great civil aviator or a great military aviator that really flies well with a great attitude, my customers are going to be happy and the job's going to be well done. It's a level playing field. The key is to understand how to get their flight time credited, how to plug it into Part 61 to make sure they can tell the story accurately, and really just be able to go out there and sell themselves on the position.
Yeah. So that leads me to a couple questions. I think the first question is, what is that thing? Like, if you're sitting down with that person and you're wanting to bring them on, like, what is that thing you're looking for? Like, can you give me an example of a person that you've spoken to recently that you're just like, this is why this person fits. This is why he's going to be a great catch.
Sure. I can give you both sides of that.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, when a person walks in, because of the fact that I go around the country doing training and checking, and I do a lot of new hire training and flights for companies as an outside entity. We do that. We do a lot of check rides for pilots that maybe had an issue with an organization. They need a reevaluation, whatever it is. So there's always that first shaking of the hand, meeting them and things of that nature. So really that first introduction, like we learned as kids, you walk in, it's that first impression. And so, you meet people for the first time and you start talking to them and they talk about their backgrounds and things of that nature. I personally love team players. I love to hear people that come in and they talk about, what they did in the industry and how they've got there. And if I have a pilot that's relatively new, then, they're, especially if they've been an instructor, I love to talk to instructors and ask them about their experience and their students. What students were their more challenging students? Why were they challenging? When there's an aspect of themselves, and I'm going to be very, very frank, but when a person comes in and it's all about me, not that people aren't able to take the storyline to themselves about how they got there and their desires of the career. But when you become an instructor, you actually are facilitating someone else's career, not your own. And when every other comment comes out of an instructor that, well, I was just building time. Well, there's a victim in that, and that's usually the students at which you're building time from.
Of course.
So those type of conversations become pretty important. When I talk to somebody that's maybe in a charter business, have been flying somewhere, and they talk about ATC issues or customer issues in a way that very little respect. They don't really care about the person or blaming everybody else. I mean, these are just basic human traits of conversation, right? Because it's not about the flying. It's not about the wrench turning. I expect a person that comes into this industry that has a certain level of experience to perform a certain way. That's 100%. Off the table. It then becomes the people skills and using a term, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but when you place a cancer of and people, they can have it. When you place that cancerous situation into a positive environment, it will destroy the entire environment at some point.
Yeah, I was in that squadron. Yeah.
Yeah. So we very, very cautious of the people things and provide the best environment to work within, the best support, and then provide the individuals enough rope to really kind of work with the team and pull everybody along based on, their obligations. Or they can do something else with that rope, and they might not be very long within the organization, and it's all on them. So I'm a people person, very much so. I expect proficiency. I expect professionalism. I want people around me that make me happy.
That's a good CEO right there. Good.
That's just the way I want it. And that's really what we're looking for.
Yeah. I'll say I've done hundreds of interviews. I've been an interviewee. I've been an interviewer. I've been an interview coach. And I've also been the guy to go fire you as well. And I'll say, like, the thing that you said, right, the part about like, hey, tell me about a challenging student. If you are coming to interview with Randy, you need to have, each question is not about like, he doesn't care about the student and the thing. He wants to know if you're introspective enough to tell the story in a way that's authentic and shows that you care about I shouldn't have said don't care about the student. You don't care about the question. It's all about how the empathy and the growth that you have because of pouring yourself into making that person better, whether they succeed or don't. If you pour yourself in and you can do that and you can be a little bit of vulnerable with that, it pays dividends in your life as a man or a woman, as an employee, as an instructor, as a pilot, like all those things. And that's where the growth is. I mean, is that?
I would agree. No, you get better words than I chose. And I will say that the idea behind it, leading the organization, is any individual that you work with is going to have a level of autonomy with your client, which represents your brand.
100%.
And so really, you used the word empathy as a great example. That's something that must exist. Yet there also is the students and the folks and the customers where more of I will exhibit empathy, but on the same token, there has to be a level of authority. It's all a balancing act. And so that's why I go back to those things where it's really about the people, and the people make up the organization. The expectations of quality is always there. But I don't think it's unique to my company. This is not unique to Helicopter Institute or Longhorn Helicopters. This is the industry, and the industry has challenges. We're seeing the pilots, for me, one of my things is I've got to take folks that want to stay in the helicopter industry, and I'm going to use the term vertical lift as well because it's modifying what vehicles we're using over time. And as I said, this is helicopter pilots. And so for helicopter pilots, we have a situation where if they like to fly helicopters, and I use the term, we kind of move that into vertical lift because the vehicles are changing just a little bit. But, the airline industry is plucking qualified helicopter pilots out left and right. Hence, we talked about RTAG, right? Rotary to Airline Group. It started that way in its infancy. Right. And so the industry learned that, hey, the helicopter side of the house is some pretty good. There are some pretty good pilots over there that have great experience. And congressionally, they recognize that for military aviators for the standardization of training that received and dropped some requirements and hours. I mean, there's a lot of benefits. We're seeing that. Well, as an operator, I need those helicopter pilots too. And so we have a responsibility to rise up to the occasion. And again, there's still folks that don't. Right. I'm not the airline bucket's guy. Getting smaller. To me, that wouldn't work for me, right? It's a different perspective, and probably, when you get to a certain age, I probably wouldn't have the patience for change. But at the end of the day, I want the folks that want to fly vertical lift aircraft and keep them happy and make a viable career out of it. They shouldn't look or feel like they're going second fiddle or making a compromised decision for their family's quality of life because they want to work and stay in the vertical lift industry. So for me, that's the key to what we do. It's got to be something, this industry has to be something where they have growth potential, not only personally, but professionally and financially. And you get them to that same position they desire to be if they went one of these other routes. That's my responsibility.
Listen, the fact that you understand that shows where you stand in this industry. And I see it a lot. I speak to dozens of pilots every single day that are in different phases of life that are looking for, where do I go? I'm a helicopter guy or gal, and here I've been for the past 10 years. Should I make this jump? Should I look for, like, how do I find a helicopter job if I want to do it? Or tell you what, a lot of them are like, man, I'm from Texas. I need to be in Texas. By God, like, what do I do in Texas? And that's what you do in Texas. You go and you go meet up Randy. That's, plus Texas is awesome. I think Elon Musk lives here now, right?
Yeah.
I do think all of these things happen and all the stars align to get the opportunity for, as you're paying this customer or this employee who really becomes your representative, when you find solid ones, it grows your company exponentially too. Have you seen a lot of growth and need in this industry over the past 3 to 5 years?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, our growth within the industry has been extraordinary. From a company perspective, it might not sound like a lot of money, but we started out in 2009 with my wife and I leaving that, a large manufacturer, starting the business. And, if you did $500,000 in business, that's fantastic. At this point, now later on, we're going to clear $4 million this year, which is a decent growth metric. And we don't do a lot of advertising. We do have great customers and a lot of word of mouth. As I said, and being insurance accepted, well, again, we have equivalent acceptance to all the manufacturers for, as I said, Airbus, Bell, MD, the Robinson. We still do some Sikorsky work in the 76 program. We have a broad brushstroke, but what I've found is that it's now the next phase of our company. And so, it's not a secret. I told you about Embry-Riddle. We won that contract. We're working that out at Prescott. It's phenomenal. My staff has really set that up. It was a hands-off approach. That mobilization went really, really well.
Yeah, I just interviewed Parker Northrop at Prescott. He's great.
Yeah, and he was a very key person into a lot of things. And he had very tall requirements. They wanted it done right. And I'm very proud of our staff to get there. The latest thing we've done, which is closed, so there's no secret. We applied the United States Air Force has put out a contract for the initial flight training rotary wing, IFTR they call it. We're a helicopter training facility. So, we went out, we acquired all the aircraft facilities. We're 85% ready. We bid this contract. We're waiting to hear from them. And from
Let's
that,
go. I'll make some calls.
Well, my thing is, I have half the staff, but I need instructors. I really want to get some good quality, if they're military background, if they're not military background, whatever. I mean, a lot of the folks in the military understand this type of training better. So it's a great way to help facilitate that. But right here in Fort Worth, we're doing it right here out of the Meacham Airport. So if folks are interested in working this Air Force contract, again, it closes in March, if not sooner, then come by the Meacham Airport. You can see the training facility, all the aircraft. We already have them. They look like TH-67s, but they're not. They're actually true to just straight up 206B3s. We painted them all orange and white because of mid-air collision avoidance. The MACA programs are significant. And your program manager's already here. So, we try and do everything. The reason I bring this up is everything. I'm a believer in infrastructure. The more we can get done on the front end, the better the quality. We're not chasing ourselves trying to get caught up when you have these opportunities. And good preparation always leads to better performance. And so that's really been the foundation of our company. And we're doing the same thing towards this next opportunity with the Air Force.
Yeah, that is so exciting. And the opportunity for growth, the fact that you need helicopter pilots in the bucket load, and Fort Worth is such a desirable location, and it's an affordable place to live. North side of town is great. Stockyards are awesome. Billy Bob's is great on Friday night. Yeah. So how can everybody find you guys? If they're interested, Randy, what do the kids need to do?
Well, if anybody's interested in, and let me say, even if you're not interested in Helicopter Institute, we're always interested to talk to folks and help guide them down the right path. So I'll give you two things. One is our company. It's helicopterinstitute.com. So that's the first thing. They can come to our website, look what we do, learn a little bit about us. That's a great way. The other thing that folks can do is reach out to me directly. I have no problem with that at all. It's my first name is Randy, my last name is Rowles, and then DPE. So Randy Rowles DPE at gmail.com. I don't know if you guys will have the ability to put that anywhere in the bio, but if they do, yeah, it should be in the bio. So you can reach out to me, or you could always call the company. Our number's on the website. Ask for me as well. Any of my staff would be happy at any time to talk to you about options in the industry, where you can go, the best path to get there. If somebody is looking for NBG endorsement as an instructor, I can help them out with that if they need it. It's administrative functions, things that may have fallen short when people get out of the military and they weren't able to close some gaps. Commercial instrument based on mil comps, I can help out with that. So, if somebody has a need, use us as a resource, even if you're not looking for a job. We're always happy to help. And that would be the message I would leave out to them. Reach out. This is a small industry, and we should all be helping each other. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be us working against each other.
Of course. Yeah, that's honestly, man, that's like the beauty of what I love about this industry is that when I met you, like, you don't know me. And I'm like, hey, I'm doing a podcast. I want to talk about you guys. I want to know all this. And it just becomes this conversation and everybody's a part of it. And it just is, how can we give? How can we give back? How can we be part of each other's lives to make other people successful? One of the recommendations I have for you guys is I'd like to see you get some big ship and put it in Lake Worth so that we can do some deck landing qualifications in the helicopters and get people Navy style like that. That's,
yeah, well, the guys next door at the naval base, JRB, they would appreciate that as well. So I don't think you're too far off the mark there. But
I know, I just left that base, and all those guys, Berger and all those guys who's listening, I'm sure they'll give you a spot over there at the Navy Lodge.
Well, I tell you, it's great. One thing about this area, and I really want to go back to it. Another email address for everybody's info@helicopterinstitute.com. That's another one if they just want information. But to go back to your comment, Fort Worth is an aviation area. I mean, this is what this is. It's the aerospace industry is really where the Fort Worth area, they kind of hang their hat on. And so we have a lot of airports, a lot of great airspace. One of the things we focus on also are short courses. We have a lot of folks that come in for a quick commercial add-on, instrument add-on, things like that. So we have a whole division of the company for just doing short courses. That's all they work on. And the reason and the purpose for that is because people work for a living. I mean, they only have so much time. And some of these organizations, they just don't have the ability to send them out for 6 months or something like that. So being in Fort Worth, being an aerospace-centric location, there's a lot of opportunity. People understand what you're trying to do, as aviators here or mechanics or whatever it may be. So we invite folks. It's very much an aviation-friendly environment. And the other part, it's easy to get to. You got DFW Airport. So it's you pretty much can get there from here or get here from there. So it works.
That's right. And I always like to say, when you hear a plane go over, you just hear a plane go over. But when you hear a helicopter go over, you look up because there's just something about it. And it's an awesome thing. Randy, thank you so much for being on the show. I'll make sure that all of your information is in the show notes. Pilot, you can just click that show notes. It'll drive you right to all the links. You can get in touch with Randy, give him and his crew a call. Just such a great company. Well, one thing I wanted to mention, I just talked to Nick Sinopoli. You guys ever heard of the Icarus device?
Yeah, of course. One of the things I told you, infrastructure is a big part of what we do. I'm always looking for a new way to do something. So, our facility I'm a huge believer in simulation. We have downstairs in our facility simulation from all of everything, the A-Star, the Robinsons, the 407s, a couple of those, the Bell 427. It's the only one in the world we have here. We also do virtual reality training with precision flight controls out of the state of Washington. But one in particular device that we believe in wholeheartedly is the Icarus Smart View Limiting Device. Basically, it's a view limiting device that you're familiar with as considered foggles for many, many years. These are basically a holistic view limiting device from all the way around, whether a ball cap or a helmet. We use it mostly with helmets. But essentially, the instructor has the ability to alter the optical range through an electronic means. It'll fog over, sort of like the glass behind me and some of the walls that I have with the opaque frosting. Well, it can go from an opaque to a clear, and the instructor has the ability to make this happen. Thus, you have real-time aeronautical decision-making now in an aircraft in the instrument environment. So it's really amazing, works through Bluetooth. We have several of these devices. We've also helped them create one for night vision goggles. 50% of my business is done on NVGs. So we needed to be able to teach that because it has a high inadvertent IMC or unintended IMC world in helicopters, particularly at night with a high fatality rate. So we wanted to make sure we trained it properly. The Icarus device facilitated that. And lastly, brownout and whiteout training has just really taken off with these devices. And I guess my point behind it, yes, we know them. Yes, we embrace it. But another piece of it is we never stop dreaming of what it's going to work for. Every time we have an idea, we try to employ it in a safe environment. We usually start in our simulators downstairs. We use that. And then we get an idea, we work off of it, and then we grow into the aircraft. So I encourage anyone that doesn't know about the Icarus device to definitely look at it, because we're a huge believer both here and at our Embry-Riddle location.
Innovation, positive training, a great work environment, quality pay, an awesome place to live. This is everything you get with the Helicopter Institute. So what a treat, Randy. Thank you for spending time. I hope we get the chance to talk again. So you're awesome. If you guys want to get in touch with Randy and his crew, show notes below. Thanks so much for being here, bud.
Hey, thank you for the time.
All right, we'll see you.
Hey, before I let you go, I need to mention one thing, because a lot of people are asking me, can you do anything? Can you help me with this? And the answer is yes. At Spitfire Elite, we will make more millionaires this year than Major League Baseball will make in the next 5 years. Our company actually does this. It's called Spitfire Elite Interview Consulting, and you can find us over at spitfireelite.com. Our clients, they call us the easy button for interview prep, because everything you need to crush your interview is there in one spot. Whether it's application review or interview prep, all of it is covered. We've helped thousands of clients who are now flying at their dream jobs because our coaches gave them the one-on-one feedback that they needed to succeed on the biggest day of their life. The best part of Spitfire is our community. All Spitfire clients will get access to our private chats where they can work with each other and they can work with our coaches and get the latest information on all the airlines. If you'd like to make sure that you are 100% ready to go on your big day, there is only one choice. Everything you need is in one place, and I think it's pretty affordable. You'll have to take a look for yourself. Just go over to spitfireelite.com and check us out. Use the coupon code podcast and it'll save you 10%. And by the way, I will see you on the next episode. The statements made on this show are my own opinions and do not reflect, nor are they under any direction from my employer.